sorry. I need a pen before we start.
Okay, we're going to call to order the regular meeting of the Deming Public Schools School Board. It's October 27th at 6 p.m. Mr. Crowe, if you'll do the roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe. Present. Mrs. Paez.
Present.
Mrs. Cameron.
Present.
Mrs. Hernandez.
Present.
Mr. Crowe present.
Okay, if everybody would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico to be a symbol of perfect friendship among United States. Before the year is over, we will know our left and our
Right. Okay, so then we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. And I believe there are some changes, Ms. Cornell.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, we do have a couple of changes to the agenda. There will be no presentation from Early College Student Council. We don't have any audience tonight. And also item 10 states that a closed session will occur when the meeting is adjourned. That will no longer occur. We will still adjourn, but we will not have a closed session after the meeting. So I ask for approval of the, with these changes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Crowe.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe. Yes. Mrs. Paez.
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron.
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
Okay. And with that, we'll move on to the reports from the Deming High School Student Council.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. I'm Melissa Vivas, and I'm the student body secretary.
I'm Jasper Gonzalez, senior class representative.
Recently, we just hosted our Southwest District Conference, and that went very well. That was last Thursday. We hosted it with over 500 people, and it ran very smoothly. We had really good involvement, and we had workshops as well that went really smoothly. And overall, it was just really good experience.
We recently went to Baton on Monday to help kick off the Red Ribbon Week. We also got a chance to talk to their student council and help with their pre-K.
And now, what we're doing right now is working on our Spirit Week for next week because it's for Halloween and it's going off of Halloween, but also fall. So yeah, we're doing that. And then on Friday, we're having a work activity to celebrate Dia de los Muertos. And that's basically all we have going on.
That sounds good. Sounds like a lot.
I have a question. You
Yeah.
had 500 students. And at the high school? Okay. Where were they from? All over?
Yeah.
All over the state?
Yes, it was Southwest District.
Yeah.
Southwest. Okay, thank you.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, anybody have any questions?
I just think it's exciting that you guys are reaching out to the younger students and you're
Mhm.
building that, yeah.
Are
Exactly.
you guys gonna dress up for Halloween too, or what?
Nice.
What are you guys going as?
I have no clue.
You better start thinking.
You have to be surprised. Yeah.
Take pictures and send them to us. Uh-huh.
Well, keep up the good work. We appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, and then we'll move on to the National Education Association.
Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent.
And what did you dress up for?
That's the question of the
This is my new acting vice president, Julian Monross. He is a teacher at Chaparral.
You're Julian?
Yeah, my name is Julian Monjadas. This is my 7th year in the classroom. Up and coming vice president, you know, NEA, we have about 6 members that we just got back from Albuquerque. The NEA Ed Justice Program, we had to apply and we were all elected to go up there, and it's a good program that kind of facilitates bringing ideas, bringing projects that have to do with education justice. And for example, my project is, I kind of have a hard goal, where my project is where I've kind of committed to going to all schools in Deming Public Schools and trying to get at least 5 new members to join our NEA program and just, keep on going. We got a really good team that wants to get active, that we're hungry, for these type of events. And that's kind of what the Ed Justice and the Delegate Council has done for us, to really feed us, inspire us. And that puts me back in the classroom where I'm right in front of our students, ready to go, trying to shine that light on them as well.
He has also somehow was I don't know how he ended up,
Voluntold.
voluntold to be the Ed PAC committee member for the
Yeah.
state for 3 years, which is our political action committee. So he'll be working on some stuff for politics and those fun things that influence education so very much. So we've done that. We haven't started our visits to schools yet, but we're going to, and I won't be doing all of them this year. I have him doing them, and Girl Perea, one of our EAs, is actually going to be doing some of them too at the elementary schools. And then we have an event this Friday for members, a party at Star Max. So that'll be fun with some bowling, some camaraderie, loosen up, enjoy some things so that we can go back into the classroom that refreshed, like he's talking about. And we are currently starting the process for the new collective bargaining agreement. However, don't pay attention, we haven't had the old one come back up in front of you guys. We are waiting for some stuff from the district to come back. There was some last minute changes in May, June, and then we hit summer break. And for the nutrition workers that we agreed with and we liked, but we have to have final wording done. So we are waiting for the district to get back on that for us. Once they get back with us with that piece, we can ratify it with our membership, and then it will go up for you guys to approve it. At the same time, we will be starting that new collective bargaining agreement that will go into effect next year. I just want to say, the Ed Justice is really fascinating. They are each coming up with their own project to do. So he's doing membership. I have someone who's investigating something to do with special education. I'm not exactly sure what she's going to end up with, because she's got a lot of different ideas. I have one person who's going to do a cheat sheet for new employees, especially teachers, of the things that tell you, like, what are your rights? What do you have to do, like for special ed, for all these other things that you have to do are really important. And then some of your rights for if your principal asks you things. So that's kind of an interesting one.
The Ed Justice program is a year long, and we go through 2 monthly meetings on Zoom. And they have facilitators from all over the NEA New Mexico team come in and say how we could build, our team, work with our amazing superintendent, and kind of build our project between a year-long run. So yeah, there's a lot of ideas, a lot of brainstorming, and it's an amazing program. And us, our NEA right now, we're wanting new members, we're wanting young educators to come in, old educators that maybe have possibly never been a part of NEA, just to kind of build that community that the union has.
I have a suggestion. You call them veteran, not old.
I was waiting.
Yeah. You know what? You're not the only one that's told me that.
I mean, old is like me,
Oh, I don't think so. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay, and then we have our report from Deming Cesar Chavez.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, acting superintendent Ms. Parnell, members.
I like your shirt from Cesar Chavez.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We try to implement our goals. We do have a school uniform, of course, you all know that. Makes it easy to identify our students in our school. Makes it easy when you have 90 students during the day. So that's what we do and stress in our school. I do want to say our enrollment is up this year compared to last year. Last year, we ended up at 133. That's what we reported for the 43. It's up to 147. We were hoping to get to 160. Unfortunately, we couldn't get there. But we do have 147 students. Those 93 are day students. Although we're capped at 90 in a sense, what we do is half-day students. We have students that come that work in the afternoon, they come in the morning, they're gone, and then we have students that work in the afternoon and they come, so vice versa. So they make up one unit for the day, so we don't overfill our teachers. Our average size is still 16. Our English and our math classes, of course, are the ones that students have to repeat. So those are the largest ones, but for the most part, we do keep our numbers down to 16 per class, which helps our staff, and then we try to keep them engaged as best as we can. Our attendance rate, it started off really good. The month of August, we were at 94%, and then the kids got their grades up, and then some kids said, one kid said best, senioritis in the fall. I don't know if that's such a thing, but I think even the underclassmen got senioritis because it dropped in September. So we ended up with a very low attendance rate, but I'm happy to report our first grading period, 90% of our students did pass all their classes.
Wow.
So that's a step in the right direction, and it's a good start. We did add 3 staff members to our team. 2 of them were maintenance. One, we added a CTE teacher, which for the first time we're offering media, we're offering engineering, we're offering, we even have an after-school robotics program. I left right now, we had an after-school program, and they were there, they're working on the robots. So it's something that we have never, ever had in this school, and we have a small group of students that are engaged, and I think it's something good for them. Normally we had 3 students from Palomas actually there, which is interesting. It's good to see we're getting students from the port of entry that are getting engaged in extracurricular activities. So that's good. Projected right now for a graduation rate. And again, we're hoping that all these students finish, get to the finish line. We have 32 students that are on track to graduate. 7 of them are adult students. That's one of the things that we're working diligently in getting our adult students to graduate, because those are the ones that need that diploma, and we're keeping them. I know that we don't get funding for H-21, but one of the dilemmas I'm working with, and I think that's something that I need to try to convince Santa Fe is adult education and high school diplomas. Although we will not get funded for that, I think the need is here in this community. And I understand you're caught in this dilemma. We don't get funding, but yet the right thing for the community is to allow students to get high school diplomas. So that's an ambition that I have, and I'm going to work on that to try to get, even if they're 22, 23, and they can have 4 or 5 credits missing, I'm willing to work with those students. And again, we have a staff that's committed to do so. But we'll work, that's communication that we'll work with our accountability office and make sure that it's possible. And even if it's not possible, we'll try to give them that. I know I had one student today, he's 18 and he's still lacking 10 credits. And he says, I'm gonna go to the Job Corps. It hurts to hear that, but in a sense, I'm glad that at least he's committing to getting his education. And those are things that we want to continue to do, is serve our adult population in this community. We have GED programs, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting them and offering them a diploma. So I'm going to be ambitious on that, and let's see if we can make that happen. I know I've spoken to a couple of our state senators and our Congress people. So hopefully we can make some form of funding for adult program. And I'll go ahead and turn over, of course, our facilities and our financials to Mr. Master, which all of you are very well aware of.
Good evening. As Noel talked about our enrollment, we're about 5% below what our projections were, but our budget can handle that. So we'll see what everything comes out in after session this upcoming year. We're down about 5% in enrollment. One of the things that we just came from also tonight was part of the at-risk intervention response funding. We just got that approved finally, and I'm sure Leslie's very happy too. And what we're doing is a series of family and community workshops. Some of the guidance that they put on there was financial literacy pieces. So tonight's course was on credit rating and how to increase your individual credit score. We'll continue this series. We'll have 7 of them throughout the year, once a month, each evening. If you'd like to come by, we would love to have you there as well. I think our next one is on car purchases, and we'll have home mortgage upcoming as well. So
What time is it?
usually 5 to 7. We started this one 4 to 6. So most of them will be 5 to 7, but we will get flowers out to you.
Okay,
In fact, we had a little bit lower attendance than we'd like, so we're going to reflect on that on Monday and come up with some strategies to get that. But we're really, really excited about it, and that's what the uses that we'll use for that air fund. As far as financials, we're on track. Nothing's looking weird or anything. We haven't had any of the large expenses just yet. And facility-wise, our portables are coming along. Again, super thanks to George and Babs. As always, they're lifesavers. They're the best. And our early childhood wing over there is nearing completion. We almost have the plumbing done. We have the painting done, and so we'll be putting in floors. So January, we should have that ready for use. And then we turn to the main building and get some more power so we can put a few more computers over there as well.
great.
We stand for any questions that you might have.
Any questions? I just wanted to make a comment. I just wanted to say that I continue to be very impressed with how innovative y'all are. And that program that you were talking about, Mr. Masters, sounds like a fantastic program for people in the community. And Mr. Nunez, I really appreciate your passion for getting adults diplomas. I think that is something that would really benefit our community and our economy. And
Mhm.
yeah, I appreciate you
We
all.
take care of them today, we don't have to worry about them later.
Right.
That's right.
Exactly. Anybody else have anything?
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we move on to the consent agenda then. And for the consent agenda, we have the minutes of the regular meeting from September 15th, payment of the September bills, and the budget adjustment request number 1 through 11. Is there a motion or any?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Cole?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Kroll, yes.
Okay. And with that, we'll move into our action items. And so, Ms. Parnell, sorry.
Madam President, members of the board, action item A is consideration and approval of an out-of-state trip for our Best Robotics to Frisco, Texas. And tonight we do have Mr. David Wertz. He is the sponsor of the Best Robotics from Deming High School. And it looks like he's brought a team with him.
tell them we don't bite.
So this is about half of our robotics team for Best Robotics. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Sean, I'm a senior. My name's Gavin Grant, I'm a senior.
My name is Valerie, I'm a senior.
I'm Adam Hawkins, I'm a senior.
My name is Marisol Valerio, I'm a senior.
So I retired and I came back and I have a bunch of seniors. So it's good. For next year, I worry.
Yeah.
For this year, it's great.
Let's see the numbers there.
Yeah, we have a lot of really good students they've already been coming about 8 weeks after school to get ready for competition. We compete on November the 12th. The trip is beginning of December if we qualify. So this is an if we qualify type trip. And they qualified last year. I don't know if you have any questions about the trip last year you'd like to ask them.
Did all of you go last year?
No,
It was myself, Sean, Gavin, and two other gentlemen that were with us. They're just not here.
In 5 sentences, how would you describe the trip?
real quick, sure.
Yeah, that's what I meant. You can do 6 if you want.
Did you guys place and stuff for last year or no? What did you-
We did place.
So they placed here and then they went to Texas, and Texas Regional, it's all the schools from Texas. So I think last year you had about like 40 schools.
There was 52.
52 schools. In years past before COVID, there were about 100 schools that were there. But they did very well. And they even got a plaque. They
Yes,
got
we
an
got a
award
plaque
last year.
for most elegant robot.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So Mr. Wertz, on November 12th, where will that competition be?
And at NMSU,
Then I should-
here in Las Cruces.
Okay.
And if we do well, like we hope we will, then that would make us qualify for the Frisco trip, and we didn't want to try and have a special emergency meeting with all of you, so we thought we'd try and be ahead of the game just in case.
Yeah.
We're confident they're gonna do well.
They're gonna do,
Yeah.
they're gonna go. You guys are gonna go, right?
And they've been several times, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the team historically
We've
has,
pretty much qualified every year that I
Yeah.
can remember, but
yeah, we have a great robotics
can't-
team.
you can't take that for granted. So,
Yeah,
The trip was impressive to Frisco and just to see the sheer volume of kids
yeah.
and teams and I've been there.
It's kind of funny because they actually compete on top of the hockey.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
they're doing like
Very
the
impressive.
installation and then they compete right on top of that.
Yeah, wow.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
Any other questions?
No, except we'll be excited to hear how you
Right.
do.
yeah. There's a
And
little
not
bit
a-
of pressure now.
Yeah,
November the 12th.
November 12th, yeah.
Most
The
of all,
track is
just make
November
us-
5th, But the competition is November the 12th.
one thing I hear about our students, whether they, place or not, is the behavior, the presence they make, just to make us proud. We don't hear back that, oh, you should have seen that group of kids, So that is very important to us, that we know that you realize why you're going, and it's for your, competition to enjoy as well. But you've never had a problem, so
Good.
we appreciate that. And we expect that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, Madam
Motion.
President, members of the board, I recommend that we approve the trip.
I so move that we approve the out-of-state trip for Best Robotics in Frisco.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Cross?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe? Yes. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
And Mrs. Cameron?
Yes.
And Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Crow, yes.
Okay. And with that, we kind of have a interesting procedural thing we're going to do tonight.
So the next item on the agenda, Madam President, member of the board, I recommend we move into closed executive session. And no action will be taken during closed session.
Okay. So for the closed section, I'll be dealing with section 10-15-1H4 and 7 of the New Mexico Meetings Act, the meeting with the district attorney pertaining to the litigation in which the district is a participant, specifically a special education due process complaint styled Student versus Deming Public Schools DPH 2223-07, including a possible settlement. Is there a motion to move into closed session?
I so move we move into closed session.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Cole?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe? Yes. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Crow, yes.
Okay, we'll now move into closed session.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys. We'll be back.
I see we're back, right? Okay. Okay, is there a motion to come out of closed session?
I make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Mr. Cole?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Paez,
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron,
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez,
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
Okay, then we'll move on to action item D, discussion of possible action to authorize legal counsel and superintendent to proceed with legal strategy, including possible settlement, as discussed in the closed executive session styled student versus Deming Public Schools DPH 2223-07. Is there a motion?
I move to delegate the authority to the superintendent as discussed in executive session with regards to a special education due process complaint styled student v. Deming Public Schools DPH 2223-07, including possible settlement.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Cole?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco,
Yes.
Mrs. Paez,
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron,
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
Okay, with that, I'll turn it back over to Ms. Burnett.
Okay, thank you. Madam President, members of the board, the next action item on the agenda is the approval of budget adjustment requests. And I believe we have Ms. Leslie Doyle, the district CFO, online. And I'll turn it over to Leslie.
Hopefully.
I think, Ms. Doyle, you're muted.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Deputy Superintendent Parnell. Before you, you do have a number of budget adjustments, and the first one begins with our family income index. This is a small budget adjustment where we're just covering some additional healthcare costs. The next one before you is for our operational fund. I do believe that the superintendent has discussed this with you. We are moving $1 million so that we can begin renovation for our early college high school. We do have a meeting next Thursday to continue discussions with the contractor so we can begin moving forward with that. For the third one, it is we're moving funds to help cover an FTE at the high school for the library. Then we do also have for our NM pre-K some excess insurance costs. There is a $1,000 going to PD for a specific curriculum. And then the remainder of that budget adjustment is going to supplies for the NM pre-K students. Then we have, I believe you guys have already approved the donation, but this is requesting budget authority for the Crime Stoppers donation that we will be using for vapes at Red Mountain, or vape detectors, not vapes, detectors.
Yes, please.
We're going to
That's important.
not give them out. I know, my bad. So we can go ahead and move forward with that. Can't believe I said that.
Should see the expressions over here.
And then we do also have the next one you have before you is, this is actually the remainder of our allocation from last year that we will be using for our COVID testing, and we will be using nursing supplies as well as portable HEPA filters for these funds. And then our CDC Healthy Schools, which is a fiscal year 23 allocation. We've gotten this every year. As you can see, it's primarily professional development. I believe actually November is when there's a conference in Albuquerque that we will be, that the employees will be going to. And then similarly, number 19 is our grads allocation. This is something that we get every year. And it just helps defer some of the costs for the salary as well as some supplies and professional development. And then I think this might be the last one. This is our HB 212 allocation. This is an allocation that we have to have spent by fiscal year 24. But we, I know the superintendent and Mr. Au are in discussions of how we will be utilizing these funds. And once we determine that, I'm sure we'll be coming to you for approval of those. And that is all that I have. So I will stand for any questions on any of those.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? Motion,
I make a motion that we approve the budget adjustment request.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Cole?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco?
Yes.
Mrs. Paez, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron,
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez,
Yes,
Mr. Crowe.
it's been a long week. Okay, I'll turn it back to Ms. Barnett.
Action item F is the consideration and approval to purchase a replacement fleet and maintenance vehicles. And we do have Mr. George Words to stand for questions as well as Mrs. Doyle.
Good evening.
Members of the board. So let me give you a rundown real quick of what's going on. The vehicle market is horrible. The first phone call I made for vehicles, they told us that we could place them in May for delivery in 2024. So we did some shopping and we have contacted every dealer in the state of New Mexico who is on the CES. And we have secured several vehicles through Chalmers Ford, and we have secured several vehicles through Malloy Dodge Chevrolet. Right now, we have 6 vehicles secured, pending approval tonight. One is going to be for technology. They have a very old Suburban. I think it's a 99 or 2000 model, and it has 164,000 on it. We're going to be replacing that with a Traverse, not a Traverse. I've had trouble with 2 of these. One of the big vans that's enclosed. We feel like it'll help them to deliver the computers better. We can load with forklifts, and then they can also get in and stand up in the van. So it's going to really help the technology department. We have several aging fleet vehicles. Right now, I think Red Mountain has our oldest. It's an Expedition. It has, I think, close to 160,000 on it. That one will be going to auction.
Is that the one we used to go travel?
Yeah, well, and then we have one in the fleet right now that's, I think it's vehicle 60. It's also an Expedition. And it's just barely at 100,000. That's going to be going down to Columbus. And Columbus has one that's just barely over 100,000. That's going to be coming up to Red Mountain. We're trying to get our better vehicles down to Columbus because of the distance, the maintenance, all that. We'll be taking a couple of other vehicles out of the fleet and replacing one with a Suburban. So that I think that's going to give us now 5 Suburbans that will enable us to transport students. And then we're going to replace one with a Traverse, Chevy Traverse. It's kind of a mid-size that'll be more for administration teachers that need to make their trips. We also have in the works right now, but not up. I don't think that these are going to approval, but to give you an idea. Let me back up. There are 2 more. We're going to be replacing 2 of our maintenance vehicles with F-150s. And then we also have 4 other maintenance vehicles that are 99 models and 2000 models that are going to be going up for replacement, but I do not have a bid on those yet. The order window opens up next week and goes through November 7th. So the auto manufacturers are given order windows and they have to order their year's supply in that order window. And if they don't get the order in, it's a whole year until they get the chance to do it again.
Wow.
And we got lucky enough that Chalmers Ford has this coming up. To make the process easier, we're going to be splitting it up and we're going to be ordering the vehicle. And then we're ordering the service beds to go on those vehicles separately and we'll install ourselves. Save us a little money, but it'll also, it's a process. So hopefully those are the 10 vehicles that we're looking at replacing this year. Right now, we're asking for approval for the 6. And then we'll come back when we have prices for those other 4. Even if we do get them ordered in November, we're probably not going to see distribution until May or June. Questions?
I hate to see some of my old vehicles go. but-
We have a lot of very old vehicles. We have a lot of vehicles that are from the 99 and up to about 2004
Mhm.
that.
That's
they're
when I
running-
retired.
And we're trying to be strategic about where they're placed and what they're used for. We're trying to get the long distance vehicles or the newer vehicles, things that are just running in town will be our older vehicles. But this is really gonna go a long ways to really getting our fleet up to date.
That's
So
good.
it's gonna help.
But it's so important for safety too.
Oh, I
Right.
forgot one. We're also replacing the ag truck. That will be replaced with an F-350. And then that current ag truck is gonna be pulled into the maintenance to replace one of our really old vehicles.
Okay.
How does that make our fleet look as far as age wise? And are we almost caught up, or are we gonna have to do this another couple of years as far as buying 6, 8, 10 vehicles?
Well, what Mrs. Chavez has proposed I think they've been replacing a lot of this money that comes from ESSER and ARP has been allowing us to move money out into operation. And we've actually, between last year, we replaced 6 vehicles and this year 10. I think we're on the schedule to replace 2 a year. So this is actually pushing us like 5 years up on the schedule.
Schedule, that's great.
Okay,
So
that is
I think it's a good deal. To specifically answer your question, we still have a lot of fleet vehicles that are gonna be probably 2014s to maybe 2006. I'm gonna say probably 5 to 8, but all of those are gonna be, they're really for in-town use. None of those vehicles are really gonna be put out on the road. Yeah, as far as the maintenance department, we have a lot of vehicles that are gonna be in the 2006 to newer at that point. But the good thing is most of those are probably still under 100,000 miles. So they still have a lot of life left on them. So I think it's gonna go a long ways to really updating us. I think more importantly, it's gonna go a distance to keeping our kids and faculty safe when they're on these longer trips.
Good.
Leslie, we got the money, huh?
I don't know if she heard you.
They gave me the budget. They said buy as many as you can with the budget.
We got it.
And so if the F-250s come in a little cheaper, then we actually have money, we'll probably maybe talking about maybe buying one more or just putting that money back into operational. purposes.
He says there's money.
There's money, let's do it.
I have the POs are already placed, just waiting for, the PRs are in, waiting for approval tonight.
So then, like Mr. Wirt said, then we'll just be on a rotation, so it
Yeah,
won't be as
that'll be
much
yeah,
moving
correct.
We'll
forward.
be caught up.
Right.
That'll be
Yeah, we
great.
have a rotation schedule based on age and mileage. And that gets updated every year. And the ones that are highest, they get a grade for mileage and they get a grade for years. And that comes together to give us a ranking. And every year we look at one, number 1 and number 2, and those are the ones we're going to try to replace every year. And that kind of keeps us in a budget where we know exactly how much we're going to spend every year. And that can just be put away on a yearly basis.
Madam Chair, I'd move to approve the purchase of replacement fleet and maintenance vehicles.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, Mr. Cole?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Crow? Yes. And thank you so much, Mr. Word.
yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay,
Okay,
Ms. Cornell.
so, Madam President, members of the board, action item G is consideration and approval of Luna County and Deming Public School Service Agreement, School Resource Officers. And so the reason for the change in this is due to the increase in wages. So there's that minor adjustment there. But I would also like to note that if you look at item on 8, item D, we would like to strike the last sentence of that paragraph that says law enforcement unit shall include but not be limited to surveillance video. The reason we want to take that sentence out is because those are not law enforcement records. Those are Deming Public Schools. And if you look at the criteria that that's stated above, where it says that the law enforcement records will include items that are created by them, maintained by them, and for the purpose of law enforcement. And the surveillance videos are Deming Public Schools, and we use those at times to make educational decisions. And so then it becomes FERPA. And so we just want to strike that just so it won't be muddy for people.
Okay.
You know, they can understand clearly.
Yes. Are there any questions or concerns?
Sheriff's Office just has one deputy, and that's assigned to
Red
Red
Mountain,
Mountain.
that's correct. And yeah, Baton, well, she serves our county schools, so it'd be, she does Columbus, Baton, and Red Mountain.
Is there a move to go to a second SRO from the county, or is
So-
there just one right now?
So they have indicated that they might have somebody interested, and, you know, if they do, we will certainly welcome them. We have a great partnership with both law enforcement or sheriff's office and the city. But it's just they've struggled to get people on board.
And it's my understanding the district attorney, he was going to come speak to us tonight. But there was a COVID outbreak at his office. But he's filing a grant for Luna, Hidalgo, and Grant for there to be a resource officer in each school. So, yeah,
That'd be great.
Yeah.
so
and our-
hopefully he'll be here next
The
month.
ones that we have right now are great. I mean, they
Yes.
just, they work well with students,
Yeah.
staff, and so, yeah. So I recommend that you approve the MOU with the county with the change recommended.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the consideration of approval of the City of Deming Public Schools.
There's two action items there.
Which would-
You were on
Oh, G.
action G.
Yeah, we're on
Okay,
G.
okay. Agreement, school resource officer with the amended.
Wording.
Yeah, where it's.
I'm sorry, Ms. Baez, you're gonna have to repeat it. You
Sure,
said city
no
of
problem.
Deming, it needs to be in the county.
In the county.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the Luna County and Deming Public Schools Agreement for school resource officers with the amended verbiage.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Cole?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Paez,
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron,
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mr. Crow, yes.
Okay, Ms. Parnell?
Madam President, members of the board, action item H is the consideration and approval of the city MOU. And so it reads just like the county. And so I make the recommendation that we approve it with the adjusted rates as well as striking the last sentence of item AE. And again, it's exactly like the counties. So my recommendation is approval with the changes.
Ms. Baez? Do you want to make a motion?
Let me try it again. I make a motion that we approve the City of Deming and Deming Public School Service Agreement. Oh, yeah. Yeah, just resource officers, school resource officers with the adjusted rate and the change in verbiage. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Mr. Crowe?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Paez,
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron.
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mr. Crow, yes.
Okay. Exactly.
Yeah.
Ms. Parnell?
Okay. Madam President, members of the board, action item A is recommendation and approval of award of bid 1FB number 23-03, the Facilities and Maintenance Warehouse Addition Project. And we do have Ms. Doyle as well as Mr. Wertz to stand for questions.
I don't think we have this.
I don't know if Mrs. Doyle is.
You gotta take the lead. Ms.
Yeah,
Paez.
she's there.
Oh,
there
she's-
she is.
Yeah.
Okay,
There she is.
apologies. I did not realize I was taking the lead. Good afternoon or good evening again. Yes, this was a,
Mr. Wertz is here as well, Leslie, if you would like for him.
okay. So this is an RFP that was put out. There was only one vendor that responded. And so this is the vendor that we are requesting for approval.
I'll
Not-
follow up a little bit with that. For about 4 years, we've been requesting an addition onto our back warehouse. And there's several things that we're requesting. We're requesting to change the layout of our yard to better receive our semis. As they come in, it's pretty tight, and we're requesting in addition to be able to put on a back loading dock into our new warehouse. We will take our old warehouse and turn that into a mechanics bay for our buses and fleet. So we have a dedicated place where we can pull those things in. Right now, our warehouses hold all of our maintenance fleet. I think this is going to give us about 6 more bays for us where we won't have any vehicles parked outside. And I don't know if we had a vehicle stolen and taken for a joyride out in the weeds. We recovered it, but part of that is they're just sitting out there in plain sight. This will go on the backside of the property, almost to Florida, just shy of the fence of Florida. So it's going to cover the whole back. And
How much square footage will it have?
it's going to be a 60 by 105 edition.
Wow.
So, and honestly, I got a bid for a 60 by 80, I think, previously. And it wasn't much lower than what this bid came back. So I feel like this is a very good price on this building. And we're gonna do our best to put up and utilize it. One of the bays is actually going to be utilized for the excess furniture that comes to us. And one of the ongoing problems is as schools ask us to come pick up furniture, whether it's good or bad, we have nowhere to put it. And so we do our best to try to cover it, and the winds come, and then the furniture is ruined and it can't go anywhere. So we're going to have an entire bay just to be able to store furniture until it can either go to another school or go to auction.
Yeah.
So
You're gonna be putting the building up yourself on the words,
we're
or?
going to try. We can.
No,
easily
you can do it.
Yeah, no, we can do it very easily. Yes, we will be installing.
Where's the entrance and the exit going to be? Is it going to be in the same place? Or?
Well, we're gonna move our semis into the side entrance. We have a gate, and DOT has allowed us to use that just for semis and delivery trucks that come in. Our entrance is gonna still be in the same place, and that's by DOT rules. We can't. change that. They will not let us use that side gate.
Still.
Right. What I am gonna try to do is, we are gonna try to move maintenance parking back to Ledge Street and get rid of all that congestion up there, so maybe the school-based health center has a little more parking, and there's a little more parking in front for people.
Yeah, because that entrance is a little bit tight.
It's rough,
sometimes.
it's very tight,
Yeah.
and the semis really have a hard time getting in our yard right now. It's a challenge, and they gotta be pretty good drivers to get in. So hopefully this will help alleviate a lot of that and make things a little easier.
Any other questions or comments? Motions?
I will make recommendation and approval of award of bid IFB number 23-03 Facilities and Maintenance Warehouse Addition Project.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Paul?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Perez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
Okay. Our last item.
Madam
Ms. Brennan.
President, members of the board, action item J is consideration and approval of childcare supply building grant application. And tonight we do have Miss Jessica Echeverry, who's been working fast and furiously to put this together. And she is
Bouncing up there.
there she is. Jessica?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Deputy Superintendent Parnell. Before you is the application for the Child Care Supply Building Grant. This application was a priority of Superintendent Chavez's for a supplement to the $100,000 that she got through the Kellogg Foundation for building a child care facility in my little school. As we know, childcare is an issue in our community, and we have found that it is an issue for our employees. So this is a grant that is specifically to provide childcare services for our employees. We're looking at adding 16 slots for childcare from ages birth to 4 years old. And we're basically looking at 2 classrooms in my little school. We've had the licensing agency come out and look at it. And there's a couple of improvements that we're going to need to do to the playground and also to the windows and some pony walls to separate our younger kids from the older kids in the childcare. So this grant will cover those improvements. It will also cover staffing for 6 months for the program to help us get started. And it'll cover a coordinator and 2 childcare providers to help with the services. It'll also cover some equipment and supplies for the kids. And we're looking at charging basically the same. We're very competitive against the other childcare providers in the community. And so we're looking at it being $160 a week. And that is right there with his kids in our community. So that is the same rate there. You're not going to find too many less than that unless you go to a home-based childcare. And as we know, there is a long waiting list. And so this will alleviate some of the pains that our staff have had trying to find childcare providers in the area. And we hope to expand it out to the community later on. But as of right now, we've just found funding for us to start for employees. So this will kind of start us off. If we are awarded the grant, we are expected to provide services within 6 months of being awarded. Vicki, Superintendent Chavez has really been looking at this and already has a really good plan, and we outlined that in the grant application. So after we have the money in hand, we will be able to hire the coordinator and really push this through. And we pretty much have everything for the licensing ready to go. And I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Madam President, Jessica, how will there's 16 children participants, correct? How will we choose those? Not we.
It'll be a first come, first serve basis with our employees. So once we offer that service up, it will be basically first come, first serve. For that, we will maintain a waiting list, and we hope to open up more slots depending, but for right now, for it to be sustainable and to sustain itself, we're looking at that we have to do at least the 16 slots and do the charging for the services to be able to pay for the staff and the supplies.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I have a question, Madam President. When it comes to paying for childcare, is there any application process for the teachers to access the CYFD reimbursement payments, or if they qualify financially?
Yes, we will be accepting the subsidies from the childcare that the state does. So we will be accepting that as well.
That's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
Yeah.
Any other questions, motions?
I'll move approval, not as consideration, for approval of the child care supply building grant application.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Cole?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
Okay. And with that, we finish the action items and turn it over to Ms. Farnell.
So Madam President, members of the board, under the superintendent's report, you have the first reading of the threats of violence school board policy number 341. So we found it necessary to change this policy because under our current policy, we have the way it's worded is we are treating risk and threats the same, and they're very different. So a risk to yourself is very different than threat to others. And so we wanted to separate those to make sure that we're not disciplining students that are at risk.
Yes.
And so that's really the only change here, is just making sure that they're separated. So it's clearly that we will be handling the situations differently.
Any questions on that?
I do have a question. Has this policy been run through the policy people that in Santa Fe that we've been working with,
The policy service.
the policy service?
So when excuse me, Madam President, members of the board, as I worked with Mrs. Parnell and Superintendent Chavez to draft this policy, we did use examples from the policy service. Each district that is under the policy service umbrella kind of has this tailored a little differently to fit their respective districts. So I use that as guidance. So yes, ma'am, it has been drafted with the tool of the policy service.
So you're not reinventing the wheels.
Right.
It's
Not a need.
yeah, it's important.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so if there are no questions, we'll move on. So under the schools for the superintendent's report, I just want to talk a little bit about this week. It's been a very busy and exciting week. We have Red Ribbon Week going on, and so you've seen the kids all dressing in different costumes. I was thinking costumes or clothing, but
I'm
so
surprised we didn't get a red ribbon
I
tonight.
know.
We have our superheroes.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
surprised we weren't either in our pajamas or superheroes.
We
Yeah.
didn't get the memo, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess not, or we could have all worn.
So there's a lot of excitement out there, a lot of fun, but at the same time, a lot of education going on just making healthy choices. And so I know tomorrow night we'll be finishing off the week with our last home football game. So make sure you wear white. We did have an exciting game on Tuesday. Our soccer boys did make it to the first round of state.
Oh,
Unfortunately, they fell short in double overtime, but you know,
That's
they
still
did
great.
well. So
That's
it was
great.
exciting. And I do want to mention one other thing. So Mr. Simpson did go to a conference in Albuquerque for early colleges. And at the conference, they did celebrate one of the Albuquerque schools, because since 2019, they have graduated 22 students with their associates. That's what we graduated in 1 year.
Yeah.
So that was real exciting. I said, did you share that? And he said, no, I didn't want to gloat, but I did want to share that with you guys. They're doing amazing things over there. So all the schools are. So it's been, good things are happening in Deming for sure. And so under facilities, Mr. Turner did attend the year out meeting. And so he's going to share a little bit about that.
Madam President, members of the board, we have been working with Year Out, as you all are familiar, to work on energy reduction and energy costs for savings for the district. Through PNM and through the work of Mr. George Aou and Ms. Babstoffer, we have teamed with PNM. They have a program where if we use a direct electrician contractor to change out our LED lighting, we will actually get a quicker turnaround on our investment, and it'll save us a lot more money to do the work that way. So we have pulled that piece from the Year Out package that you all got updated on just a couple of weeks ago. But now we're looking at solar energy and renewable energy to try to pump that back into our buildings. But we are looking at a year and a half to 2 year return on investment on the LED changes, where we were looking at a 10-year with Year Out. So the district has been moving in that direction, and we will, as Mr. Parker likes to state, stay tuned to see how the Year Out will follow.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So that's all the reports we have.
Okay, and then announcements. If any board members have requests for the next agenda, let me know. And the next regular board meeting will be November 17th in Columbus Elementary, which is always fun to go visit.
Yeah.
What?
I said, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, yes. And there will be a special board meeting scheduled for November 10th also.
November 10th.
Yes, at 6 p.m.
Is that all? No, it's not.
I think that will all be executive session. Right? Or no?
We might have one or two actually.
Okay, okay.
I don't want to.
You might make work for us over there. Okay. Anything else?
Columbus?
6, right?
Yes.
And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Also move.
I'll second.
Mr. Cole?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Paez,
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron,
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez,
Yes.
Mr. Crow, yes. Thank you, everybody. We
Okay.
really appreciate you guys being here.
Yes, me too.
Yes. And all the work.
Yes.
I like the superhero shirts.
Yeah, they look cool. Good job.
Maybe next year y'all could do a